Hey, Kevin, thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Hey, one of the things I wanted to ask you is what are the ways that you've seen this idea, right? This power over versus power under play itself out within the church world?
Yeah, honestly, coming into ministry, I was in college and felt the call to ministry. I didn't think success and power was going to play into the church at all. I was very naive, and very early on, I realized. So as far as a measure of success, I would say probably the most common measure of success in the church world is attendance and budget, right? So a church that is successful is a large church with a large budget. Now, things are changing right now. There's kind of a call that the mega church is on a decline, and the church is trying to figure out, what this looks like next, how to really be faithful to God, and it's not all about attendance and dollars. But then also, I realized getting in that there's an org chart, and in that org chart, there's a hierarchy. And I've been lucky enough to work at Friends Church my whole career, where they take more of the model of making sure pastors are under the people that they're serving and that they're empowering people. It's always been a value around here. But I've been at some churches where the senior pastor has his own parking spot and it's in the best place. Here at Friends, it's always been about our pastors park off-site, leave spots, especially for visitors. So I feel like Friends has done a good job of that, but not every place I've been. Now that I'm traveling and speaking, I find it insane how people kind of put me on a pedestal, and even the staff go out of their way to serve me and want to make sure everything's fine. And so, like you're talking about, Jesus came to serve, not be served. As I go into these situations, I'm always thinking through, how can I serve? I don't want to be put on a pedestal. I don't want to be more important than anybody else, because I'm really trying to go in and boast about my weaknesses. And so it's really important for me to be anchored down to the thought of, like, I'm here to serve, both in my local church and as I travel. Now, one of the cool things about you that I heard early on, and I've heard you talk about this a lot, is you came to Friends Church out of a situation where your ego took a hit. And so I can imagine your idea of success was probably challenged during that time. So would you mind sharing more with me again, and then the people that are watching? Yeah. How did you take that hit? How'd you deal with it?
Yeah, I think, like many people, right, who grow up in America and Western culture, our idea of success is this idea that if I can get the good grades when I'm growing up, and then if I can perform well at whatever my job is, that it's in that space that I'll be kind of, pinned and championed, and I'll be the most successful. And so it's hard when you're, in a place where you're actually lauded for doing a really good job. I love what I do, and I love the fact that I get to be a pastor and to care for people. And one of the things that I actually love is kind of bringing innovative and strategic changes into cultures. And so whereas you've been at Friends for a long time, I've actually had, by God's grace, the opportunity to be in a few different organizations, and every one of them have been asked to come in and change the culture. And in this one place I was at right before I came to Friends, I was asked to change the culture, and we were seeing the culture completely flip in a beautiful, awesome, amazing way. But what was interesting is that even though, we were seeing what we wanted to see, and some of what we've been talking about today, this idea of faithfulness and really like saying, this is what we believe God's called us to, so we're going to be in it, we're going to stay in it, we weren't seeing the numbers, that we wanted to see. And even though we weren't seeing the numbers, we were seeing transformation, and we were seeing change, and we were seeing people who didn't know Jesus actually come to meet Jesus. And so on all of those metrics, I was hitting and doing my job well. But on the metrics of, are we having butts and seats, and are people here, and, whatnot, I wasn't hitting those metrics well. And so I remember walking into my boss's office for a meeting that was regularly scheduled, and love this guy, amazing guy. I still love him today. But as I walked in and realized, this is a very different meeting than I was expecting. And in the meeting, he affirmed, you're doing a great job. You're doing what we've asked of you, but it's not quite enough. And one of the things that was even said to me that was really hurtful and really painful was he actually pointed at me and said, you're the problem. And I didn't know what that meant. It wasn't like there was secret sin. There was nothing wrong, so to say.
Yeah.
But he just said, the way you work, the way you think, the way you operate really doesn't fit within this place. And so here I am, someone who, has been kind of built up as this idea that, hey, if you give it your all, and if you're good, and if you're seeing results, you're fine. In fact, you're the best of the best. And that had served me my entire life, whether it was elementary school, junior high, high school, college, and then in my first few jobs that I had coming out of college. But here, he was affirming, you're a really hard worker. What you've been setting out to do, we're seeing the changes. We might not be seeing the numbers, but we're seeing the changes. But you're the one that we're not too sold on.
Yeah, man, and that's probably one of those truths that are hiding below the surface, that when you change your metric of success, if you are in an organization that doesn't have the same definition of success, there's going to be a rub there.
Yeah.
And you aren't going to fit in, and you will not be viewed as successful.
Yeah, it's hard. Part of the backstory to this is about 2 years prior, God had begun to kind of unwork my ideas of success. And so there was this sense for me that, hey, like deep change and life change is a long process. And so because of that, I always knew I could throw a party and get 700 kids there. I'd done it in the past, but I didn't believe that's what God had called me to in this new space and in this new season. And so it was gut-wrenching, because I was affirmed for working hard and doing a good job, but that wasn't enough.
Yeah. Well, dude, Kevin, I'm so pumped that you're here with us on Friends Online, and I want to make sure that as a church, even in this digital space, that we're holding up the values of Jesus, and that we see success through the lens that God sees success. And so, dude, stoked that you're here, stoked that you've already worked through that in your life.
Thank you.
And I think that you're going to be a big part of helping us get there as an organization, and then all of us that are a part of this in our digital community. So, dude, thanks for letting me join you for a few minutes, and then I'm going to let you get back to do your thing.
Thanks, man. All right.